about you do the intro this time? Let's see what you got.
My name is Ak, aka
All
James.
right, that didn't work. What's going on, everybody? My name is Enoch. That's my brother James. This is the Blood Brothers Podcast. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, all the listeners and all of you watching on YouTube to the Blood Brothers Podcast. Before we get going, y'all know how we like to do it. Let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this moment right now. We ask you to use us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Hey,
All right.
man.
What up, man?
It's good.
Ain't nothing. Talk to me, man. What's up?
Talk to you about what? Let me hear you do our what's our
The mission
what's our mission
Now you
statement?
gonna try to violate me back now?
Yeah.
Our mission is to empower men. Now you got it. Go ahead. You got it. Go ahead.
Our mission will always remain the same. Consistent patterns equal a healthy life. Empowering men to become leaders in society under God's law. Consequently, we are the representation of what a real man is supposed to be.
We're very confident.
I forgot the
what you forgot. See, look at you. That's what you get. That's what you get. Play it. You see, try to come at me. I do my part right. Do your part right.
All right. Empower men to become leaders in society under God's law. Consequently, men, women, and other children will have a representation of what a real man is supposed to be.
Ooh, yes, sir. My bad. You see that, podcast listeners? We like to stay in our lane because we obviously can't do certain things properly. But yeah, man, we've been doing this relationship series. Today, we're supposed to start a new one, right? But here's the great thing about podcasts, right? You know, sometimes we talk about things and then we realize we're going to go to the next thing. But the great thing about podcasts is we don't have nobody over our head saying we got to go to the next thing. So when we feel like there's something we got to go back to and really touch on, we can do that. So we're going to hold off on jumping to the next series. We got to finish relationships. Yeah, we got to finish up relationships because last week we talked about parenting. Mm-hmm. We touched very little on co-parenting and that situation. So I feel like that's deserving of its own episode because realistically, you see a lot of those situations going on and you don't hear a lot of feedback on how you should go about those situations. And you speak from what I know, from most people that I know that have children outside of relationships, marriage, things like that. I feel like you break it down in a way that's very clear and focused. So I really want to just focus on that. And you give all your nuggets and gems to people because it's needed out here.
Yeah, it's sad to say, but obviously there are a lot of broken homes. And I don't want to say broken homes. Just there are a lot of children that were born out of wedlock, and then the parents didn't remain together. I don't like the word broken homes because that for me that just gives a very negative energy towards it. And it's not a great situation, but it doesn't have to be a negative situation at the same time. Co-parenting is very challenging.
Yeah.
Very challenging because if there's one negative aspect of co-parenting that we'll address, and I'll just get that one out the way up front, it's definitely a power struggle. It's an extreme power struggle for both parties. I would say the struggle usually stems from there. I'm just going to use plus and minus as an example. So you'll have a parent who's a plus, which is the person who wants control, then the person who's a minus who feels like they don't have control.
Okay, yeah.
So what happens is majority of the time when you're dealing with co-parenting, usually the plus is the mom because the society and the courts and all of those things deem a mom to have so much influence and privilege when it comes to parenting. Not negating the mom's position as far as, of course, you gave birth
Yeah.
and that aspect of it, but it doesn't negate the fact that fathers have equal rights too.
Mm-hmm.
Takes two to tangle. I do see a lot of men who steer away from these type of situations when the mom is very overbearing or
Mm-hmm.
unrealistic in ways, or even considered, that what they would called or deem like a bad baby moms. I hate that word, but
Yeah.
that's the only word I could use to describe it from
Yeah.
this aspect. But
And that's a term that you don't even use, surprisingly. You might be the only person I know
can't.
that don't call their mother's father, I mean, your child's mother, a baby mom.
Yeah, I just can't do it. It's one of
Like,
those things.
it's rare. It's rare you see that.
No, it stems from the fact that my son, he calls his mom mommy. So
Mommy, yeah.
right, so I'm not gonna ruin his perception by calling her a baby mom's. Is
Mm.
that's the way to put it. I would much
Mm.
rather say your mother or Cameron's mother as he
Yeah.
addressed her. Um, but let's get into it. Let's start off with the foundation of a healthy co-parenting relationship and
Mm-hmm.
what are the principles behind it, right? So I'm going to put it in a perspective. I'm going to use one big principle and then we're going to have the subsections within it.
Okay.
So just follow us as we go through the process. So ultimately, when it comes down to co-parenting, the most important thing is respect.
Hmm.
That is at the core root of everything. It has to be respect, because
Yeah.
the relationships that don't last because there was a form of disloyalty, disrespect, or violation.
Mm.
So what you
You
have to
you're
do,
saying within the relationship.
yes, before you
Okay.
actually had the child, usually
Okay.
relationships don't last because of some form of disrespect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So because that's violated, you have to find a common middle to address the situation and occupy that area of disrespect and transform it into a form of respect based off the child,
Wow. Huh.
right? That's
Wow.
that's extremely important. And I think before you even move forward or try to co-parent effectively, you have to have a very high sense of respect for the situation at hand.
I think that's very important too, because if you think about it, the reason they're not together, there was a lack of something. So now, if you're not together, you have a child, you kind of have to find that common ground to fill that gap so it doesn't pour into the child.
100%.
So it's almost like, even though we didn't work out, we have to make this work out. And
Yes.
that's tough.
And when you say this, you have to be
Mhm.
very
The
specific.
child, the
The
situation
up
with the
the
child,
upbringing of your
upbringing.
child
Yep. Mm-hmm.
specifically,
Mm-hmm.
because what we find very often is that, and I only can speak from a male's point of view, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
usually in that form of violation, it births bitterness and anger and a lot of things that are hard for people to deal with. I say people because men and women have the same feelings, just that
Yeah.
they react to them differently.
Mm-hmm.
From a guy's perspective, obviously when you cheat or you violate, a woman is hurt, they're
Mm-hmm.
scorned, they have a lot of bitterness toward you. So just imagine them looking at a child that resembles you
Whew.
every day. And not saying that moms are taking it out on the children. That's not what I'm implying, but what I'm saying is
Subconsciously, they can without even knowing.
exactly. It's not, I don't think it's a malicious intent, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times they use the child as a pawn to reprimand the father of the child because of his actions.
Hmm.
And when you do that, you're not always hurting. Well, basically, you're not just hurting the man, you're hurting the child even more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So that's actually what leads back to what you were just saying as far as, trying to find a common ground. It is very hard, very hard.
Wow. What would you say was your biggest, I guess, obstacle for you to reaching that point? Like, okay, it's set. I'm not gonna be with my child's mother
Well,
now.
Like
How
now?
do I? Not even now. I
Mhm.
would say whatever point it would be where you were able to come to the understand like, okay, I'm not gonna be with her, but I'm gonna make sure that doesn't affect my child.
Well, to me, I separated the two personally just
Mm-hmm.
because I never wanted it's put it like this. It's a joint package, but
Mm-hmm.
there are boundaries in between,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I it wasn't a hard choice for me,
Mm-hmm.
and this is not a knock versus, Cameron's mom, anything like that. But for me,
Yeah.
I've always been what you would call like a multi-woman man. I hate to say it like that, but
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So I was never committed fully to the point where the woman could do anything to hurt me directly, right?
Mm.
So for me, it was very simple of, okay, I don't want to be with her,
Yeah.
but I knew where I stood from the beginning, like even
Okay.
before the child came into play, which is
Okay.
it's not a good thing, but it's just the reality of the situation. I knew I didn't want to be with his mom, right?
Uh-huh.
But when he was born, I tried to correct the actions because
Mm-hmm.
obviously my child is involved and I want him to have a healthy home. It
Okay.
probably, I would say, took maybe when I was 23. I made like one more last attempt to try to,
Mm-hmm.
be with her, but it wasn't,
Yeah.
I mean,
It
I'm not
wasn't
gonna say,
pure.
yeah, it wasn't pure, which is why it didn't work, right?
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
understandable. She didn't deserve to have a person that wasn't truly in love with her and like, have the
Mm-hmm.
respect for her and all of those things.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say they make it work for the child, but eventually the child goes away and then it's just you two. So
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes that avenue isn't worth it. And I hear a
In
lot of
my
people,
culture, that's pushed heavy.
what,
Like
make it work for the child?
if you get a girl pregnant, you better go marry her.
Yeah, I don't,
That's pushed heavily in my culture.
I think that's the Caribbean culture.
Yeah.
Honestly, that could be, and I'm not even gonna say that. I think that's in everybody's culture in a way,
You think
right?
so?
Yeah, because if you think about it, when you have a child with somebody, let's say you are on good terms while you have the
Mm-hmm.
child, y'all are gonna be together,
Mm-hmm.
right? So regardless of the culture, if y'all are already in good terms, why y'all not getting married anyway? You're having a child, you're gonna be locked in for life anyway. So I
Yeah.
don't think it has to
Yeah.
do with a culture thing. It's more of
Nah, I mean like, even if it's a one night stand, like
oh
they
no, yeah,
want you to marry. That's what I'm saying. Like in my culture, it's like I get the whole like, yo, y'all together, y'all had a baby, y'all might as well get married.
yeah.
But in my culture, bro, like even if y'all just started dating, she got pregnant, well, you better marry her.
Oh no, they see, y'all always take it too far. Like that's what I
That's
be
what I'm
saying.
saying. They take it to the next level.
Yeah, I can't agree with that one, but I'll leave that up to the cultural experts to dig into that. But
Yeah,
what I
man.
will say is that when I came to the realization that we weren't going to be together seriously, and it was hurtful
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like I failed my son. It wasn't so much, I wasn't hurt that we weren't together
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, I wasn't fully
Yeah.
invested, but
Yeah.
I was hurt that I brought a child into the world who's not going to ever see his mom and dad together.
Mm.
And that definitely played a major part in my mentality towards how I would, you know, move
Yeah.
forward, if that's
So
the
that was
word.
your motivating factor.
Exactly. It's not as easy when when it's one party and not the other. So like when two parties, so put it like this: if two parties, neither one of them want to be with each other, more than
Mm-hmm.
likely it's gonna work out. But if one party doesn't want to be with the person and the other
Mm.
party has a kind of thought of it,
Wow.
now you run into a big dilemma when it comes to raising the child. I'm not
Uh,
saying that was my situation 100%. All I'm saying is I ran into a lot of trouble in certain areas,
I
that,
never looked at it like that. Wow.
yeah,
That makes a lot of sense. Cause in a way,
hmm,
even though y'all not together, y'all still unequally yoked when it comes to the child.
yeah,
So
100.
it's like, we don't want to be together. All right, cool. That's our understanding. We're equally yoked.
Hmm.
We're gonna take care of the kid. But if you got one like, I want to be with you. And I was like, nah, I'm not trying to be with you. I want to raise the child though. So the person that wants to be with that person, they're gonna have a bitterness towards them, and that's gonna go through the child. So then
100%.
that doesn't work. Wow. I never
No,
even looked at it like that.
it
Wow.
it
That makes
does.
a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very common thing, and a lot of people who go through that process, they'll say like, "Oh, I don't want to be with them," right? But
Mm-hmm.
let me show you, and I'll explain it in detail. But I'll give you an example. You'll know if you're in that situation if the other party cares by who or how the person reacts to when you move on to another person,
Hmm.
right? For me, I'm not gonna front. I didn't really care.
Yeah.
Whoever you bring around, you bring around. I just always had the mentality: if my son doesn't complain, I ain't saying nothing. But the minute
Mm-hmm.
my son has a problem with who you're bringing around, then we
Yeah.
have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I won't always say it was like that for me in my situation, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like I said, I can't control what no one does.
Wow.
And you kind of just roll with the punches. But ultimately, what I will say was the deciding factor in leveling the playing field
Mm-hmm.
internally was my accountability, right? I never blame his mother for what happened. I
Hmm.
never, regardless of what she does, the root of it stems from me having a child with someone that I wasn't committed to or married to. So that's on
Mm.
me.
Yeah.
And anything that comes along with it are just the repercussions of my actions. So it allows me to cope with it differently than, say, a man who wants to place blame,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once you start playing the blame game in this situation, it's a lose-lose because they're bitter, you become bitter, child's affected,
Yeah.
so,
And
but
that's where you see a lot of those situations where there are stats. I should have got the stats, but when there's a child that's brought up in, like we said, broken home, there's a lot of issues there
mhm,
with that child, and it stems directly. They can trace it back that it stems directly from when my parents either so-called split or wasn't
mhm,
together. Like I said, oh, I was hurt from when I was maybe 3, 4 years old. My parents split,
yeah,
and that's affected me throughout my whole life. And
mhm,
it's just crazy that something like a parent not being together and then they're both in a toxic relationship when it comes to the child, that affects the child later on in life.
mhm,
And I think people that are in that situation don't really see it as that. They look at it as, oh, they're young, they don't really get what's going on.
mhm,
But you have to understand, between the ages of, I said, what was it, up to like 4 or 5, they retain the most information or
mhm.
something like that. So everything that you're doing within that child's young years, that plays a part later on.
Yeah, and one thing I will say is I can only speak from my situation, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but Cameron has never seen me and his
Mm-hmm.
mother together
Mm-hmm.
in an
Yeah.
intimate setting, right? So he's never
Mm-hmm.
seen, and it's sad, but he's never seen his nucleus family,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So his recollection of it doesn't exist.
Exists. Yeah. So there's no broken piece there.
So yeah, there
Yeah.
might be a questioning, but I don't really know if there's a
Mm-hmm.
longing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That'll be told as we go on in life, and
Mm-hmm.
he says it. But from what I understand from my son, who I speak to all the time,
Mm-hmm.
this is just his normal. Not saying
Yeah.
that his normal is right because he was forced into it, but
Mm-hmm.
this is something he's used to. And I'm pretty sure, after I got married and I had Christian, now it triggered a little bit more in his mind of, okay,
Yeah.
well, what about what about my family type of energy? But
Mm-hmm.
I think the patterns that he has lived through so consistently, as far as I go with mommy, I go with daddy, I go with mommy, I go with daddy, that overrides his right now, his the
Mm-hmm.
common sense of it, where it's like he can put it together, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, my mom's not with my dad because such and such.
Yeah.
But me being the father and me not really caring about blaming his mother, that's a conversation I'm gonna have with him. Like, hey, look,
Mm-hmm.
this is why we're not together. Daddy was like this, daddy did this. I don't really have much to say about your mom because I don't really care to say much about your mom in that aspect of it. Not to speak bad, but I just don't. It's not a thing where I think people put too much energy into trying to convince the child of
that they're the good one in this.
exactly. I just don't care, right? I just don't care. I
my
always
accent to show who I am.
exactly. I always say
Yeah.
a child paints his own picture,
Yeah.
right? So if you're giving him certain things or you're doing certain things to him, then guess what? That's the picture he's gonna paint of you, and it just is what it is. And because I mean, in a healthy aspect of it, he see it. It's a double-edged sword because he lives with me part time. He lives with mom part time, right? Two different homes, two different philosophies, two different lifestyles, two different everything. So now it'll be up to him to decide which lifestyle he wants to live. Now, I'm not going to be the one to speak down on a woman he cares about, right? I'm just going to say, hey, look, certain things I'll explain to you when you get older. Certain things you could just ask your mom. Now, if you feel a need to ask me, and I'll just tell you. But it's just one of those type of situations where you run into a lot of roadblocks because there aren't, which we're going to get into right now, is the respect. And in the respect, there's 3 aspects of respect that you have to master before you could even have a solid co-parenting relationship. So one would be language. Next would be actions. And then last, and I've said this last because it's going to be the foundation of the teaching, it's going to be the boundaries within the relationship. Right? So let's speak on first. Let's just talk about the boundaries first.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to ask you, when you got married and you had your children, what were some of the struggles that you felt like you had to overcome to become, a successful parent? Even though you're not co-parenting, you're with, you and Kayla are married, but like, what are some of the struggles you had to overcome?
As far as being a parent and married, I would say it wasn't like a me and her issue as far as parenting together. I would say more so it was me not trying to bring in the same kind of tactics that I grew up with.
Like a parenting style.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I knew, I don't know, I just knew that there's certain things I don't want to do with my child. And she came from a different background where she said she got hit maybe once, I think. And me, that was just the norm. It's that dictator mindset.
Yeah.
So within that, I knew already off the rip, like I'm gonna have to make sure I'm able to tame that within being a parent to my children.
Yeah,
and she understood that.
Yeah, but Kayla wouldn't have that anyway, though. She would definitely help aid you through the process.
Yeah, and she did. She did.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because there'll be times I would say something. She'd be like, "All right, now you're gonna go hug him or talk to him." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I got you." And then I go talk to him like, "Look, you see what you did wrong, right?" And things like that. So she definitely was able to help me with that.
I mean, you guys got youngins, so it's good that you're practicing now because it'll get easy. A lot of people say it gets tougher as they get older. I don't believe that.
Nah, I don't think so.
I truly believe you set the right foundation in your child, it gets easier because now instead of teaching them the ABCs, like let's just say, you can give them the concept of the alphabet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you learn A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? But now I'm going to show you how to form words and the concepts of why these words are important. And what happens is when they adopt that type of philosophy, it makes it a lot easier to communicate with them because they'll start to bring things to you that challenge moral stands or what your upbringing is, those kind of things. And the dialogue between you and your child increases dramatically. So I would say the foundation is probably set between 0 to 10, right? Then after that, once that tween age is 10 to 12, that's when you start teaching principles. But by 13, 14, you want to start implementing the principles in actions and verbal tactics, right?
And that's the stage that you're going into.
Yeah, I'm going.
So now with you and your tactics and your pretty much principles that you're going to instill, how do you co-parent with knowing that he might be getting different principles
Um,
and helping him understand which ones I need to,
no, 100%. And that's actually one of my challenges that I've been dealing with his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very influential in his mentality. So
Yeah, yeah.
I would just say more than anything, I've never focused on loving him as much as I focused on raising him.
Mm.
And when I say that, in my effort to raise a young man, my love showed through my actions. So I didn't have to go, oh, I love you so much, or right.
Mm-hmm.
I was more focused on his mind. I always said it, and this is still holds true to this day, that it doesn't matter where he is, I got his mind.
Hmm.
So I've always just prepared his mind to be independent and think for himself. And honestly, I prayed for that. That wasn't something that, when people go, you pray for certain things, or you pray that God showed you these kind of things. Like,
Yeah.
I was really one of those people that actually focused in and prayed that I had the ability to effectively influence my child's mind. This was like a direct prayer. It wasn't, and I don't even want to call it a prayer. It was a direct petition in the
Mm-hmm.
kingdom of God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I used was, I always asked for the wisdom of Solomon. Solomon was a very wise
Yeah.
man, very,
Yeah.
very wise. And it's not that I admire, people in the sense of worshiping them, right? But I do believe in taking certain characteristics that are positive and implementing them into your own mentality to better yourself. Some people are good at
Mm-hmm.
different things, and
Yeah.
I just believe that it was very wise of Solomon to ask for wisdom to run his kingdom. That was just
Mm-hmm.
a very wise decision. So
Yep.
if God granted him that, I didn't see why he wouldn't grant me the same type of wisdom to raise my son, especially when I gave him back to him,
Yeah.
right? I just
Yeah.
made it very clear to God that I said, hey, when it comes to me, I don't have a role model to teach me wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what I need is for you to teach me wisdom. So through
Wow.
that process, a lot of things changed in my mentality. So I asked for wisdom to teach my son, and God corrected me, right?
Mm.
Right?
Wow.
It was an internal thing. It wasn't an external.
Yeah.
I asked for external ability, but when I said it, he corrected me internally so I can provide it
So you can,
externally,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So when he's with another party, and this is not a knock versus his mom or their household or anything like that,
yeah,
I don't really worry. I don't worry about that as much as I don't worry about him going to school and being influenced by his friends. It's all the same to me, right? I don't have to specify according to title.
yeah,
He's my child. I really raised him. I wasn't playing when I raised him. So
yeah,
I know what
yeah,
I raised.
yeah.
And because of that, I'm not gonna say it's not a challenge, but I always keep in mind what I prayed for
Mm-hmm.
and who God is to me and who Cameron is to God.
Yeah.
So within that, I find a lot of comfort, and it allows me to be the parent that God wants me to be instead of the parent I feel like I might have to be to compete, right?
Wow.
When parents
Wow.
compete, because they compete with each other. Oh, I
Yeah.
can do this for you, or I can't do this for you. I get you this, I get that. I don't care about that. Let whatever your mother gets you, she gets you. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
whatever the case may be. A lot of parents compete, but within, and this was probably around, I must have been maybe 22, 20, 21, 22-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it was about a 5-year process of God just working on my mind and showing me true conviction so I can make true change. So I did have the wisdom to implement into Cam. So, it's
One
not
thing
a,
I noticed in that is when you see situations where one party is so bitter towards the other party and affects the child. With your situation, one thing that I'm noticing, you're working on yourself so much you don't have time to worry about the other party.
yeah, 100%.
So I feel like that is a key thing that blended or whatever type of situation should have, because if I'm constantly working on myself and trying to make sure I'm who I'm supposed to be to raise this child, I don't really have time to be talking crazy about the other person and, oh, your mom does this, your father's. I'm so focused on you and making sure I'm who I'm supposed to be for you. I shouldn't even have time to be bashing the other person.
There's no room in my mind to bash her. Not to mention, I'm just naturally a person that doesn't care. It takes a lot for me to care.
Yeah.
Right. So there are even certain things that he'll say to me that I know comes from her, or things she'll say. So like cheap shots. She'll even say to me, "I just don't care." You know what I mean? Like when it push really comes to shove and you get to the root of it, I don't care. There's nothing that, and this is like I'm saying this, but I don't want it to come off the wrong way. There's nothing that anyone could do that'll affect what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not really a knock versus mom as much as it's across the board. Like I'm in tune. So I'm rooted, right? I'm like a solid tree. Regardless of what happened, I'm holding, right? It doesn't matter.
Yo, hold on. I don't think you even noticed what you said and your body language when you said it. You said, "I'm in tune."
Yeah.
Notice the hand movement. You said, "I'm in tune."
Okay, yeah. I mean,
like you didn't even notice it because you're so in tune. You said, "I'm in tune," but look where you're staying at.
Yeah, I'm programmed.
That's all focus. It's where it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
and that shows that constant self-evaluation. Like, yo, I'm in tune, and it's like it's just so normal to you. You didn't even notice. Like, yeah, I'm focused on this.
Yeah, and it's like I said, a wise man will always be focused. There's just things that certain things you can get. Certain gifts are given to God naturally, like you get from God naturally. But there are a lot of things that you actually have to pray for and work for, right? So, and I don't even like the word prayer, because a lot of times, and I'm not. It's not. I'm saying I don't pray. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in the concept of praying, it's a petition, right? Yeah. You're allowed to petition in a court to a king, right? To a king, you can petition to him, and he will grant you what you ask, right? Yeah. So if the king is my father, and I'm petitioning wisdom, that's a good thing. He's not going to go, "No, I'm not giving you no wisdom. You don't deserve wisdom." Like, exactly. Nah. But the thing about it is, a lot of times people petition for things, and then what happens is the circumstance changes your petition, because you thought that you were going to get wisdom from a tree, and you got it from self-evaluation.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's too much for you to handle, and what do? You end up backing off it. But what happened is, I said wisdom regardless of how I got to get it. So he said, "Cool, all right, this is what's wrong. You did this. You're a liar. You're a cheater. You're emulating your father's behaviors. Your mentality sucks." Right? And it's like, "Oh, you broke your son's heart." Right? Yeah. These are the things he's starting to tell me. Like, and I had to come to realization, like, "Hey, nah, you know what I mean? You really did. You put your son in a bad situation, but you can change the situation."
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole thing. So I asked for wisdom. He said, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna fix you."
That's why it's important when, like, we don't just do, I would say, the cliche prayers. Like, our prayers, there's something behind it.
Always.
Like, even I don't think we ever even talked about it. Like, even the prayer that we do before we start the podcast, that's not a joke prayer. No, it's serious. Like, yo, God, we want you to use us. I don't mean to throw people up, but I remember one time when we first was doing a podcast, somebody said, like, "Yo, you should do a OD prayer to make a." I'm like, "Bro, what are you talking about?" It's like, "Yeah, I saw you do the prayer. Like, you should really make a deep prayer." I'm like, "No, I'm praying for a specific thing. This is what we do. I'm not about to do this whole shenanigans. That's not what we about." Like, what? Nah, we're not about to do that. Like, when we pray, like, this is real. Like, God, use us right now. Like, simple. Like, this is what we do.
No, but you know what? And this is not a knock versus the person that said it, right? But the problem is that, and this is why I said, and I mean, this is off topic a little bit, but this is why I said we're gonna have to go into that lane of explaining who God really is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is why I said it, because people will take what they see on TV, YouTube, blah blah blah, all of these things, and think that's how God operates.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not so. It's just not. It's a very genuine and this goes back even to friendship stuff we was talking about. The topic of, it's a very genuine relationship. So one thing you have to keep in mind too, and this is why we're going to get into, like I said, we're going to have to, this is just a segue, but we're going to have to, but think about it like this. When you're intimate, at your highest intimate moment, right? Let's just say you and your wife, y'all at your most intimate moment, right? Let's say y'all about to have sex. It's a very intimate moment. there aren't a lot of words that are said. It's just action.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
you can revert that back to when you say a prayer. There's not a lot of words that have to be said. If you're intimate with God, a lot of times the words, you can't even articulate the words that you want to say to his presence. Right? So a lot of times he'll understand your tears or your groans or those things. He'll understand where it's coming from. So for someone to say you should go into a deep prayer, remember, the louder you are, like, to me, it's like this. If God is all the way in heaven, right? I have to go, yo, God, you hear me? Right? But if I'm intimate, I don't really have to talk loud because he's right here. So when I talk to him, it's very...
For you to think what I'm saying is not deep, that just shows that you don't have a relationship, because me, what I'm saying, that's deep.
It's very
direct. Because I have an intimate relation. I don't got to say much. All I got to say is, God, use us right now. Period. And he knows everything that's coming after that.
Exactly. But this is really why, like, when I said we're on a crash course to that topic. It's just, it's organic, right?
Yeah.
But I felt it even from before. I'm like, yo, we're on a crash course to it. It's just it's just we have to take the right steps. But back to co-parent. Sorry about that, guys. All right. So with co-parent. Okay, so we spoke about we were saying the three levels to respect. And obviously let's set the foundation in the relationship boundaries. Very, very important. So what do I mean by relationship boundaries? That means no sex with the other party, right? No sex. There's no such thing as, oh, that's mine, she's still mine because she's my child, or he's still mine because he has my child. Whatever wording is you want to use. That's a very direct boundary. You cannot cross those thresholds and think that things are going to run smoothly. And even within that goes into how you relate with the person personally. Like, when you guys see me, I'm very stern with my boundaries. So there's no hugging, there's no kiss on the cheek, there's nothing, especially because, and this was before I got, married, but I never wanted to confuse my child by being affectionate with his mom in a way where he couldn't understand, right? He thinks that, oh, I'm hugging her. Oh, wow, my dad is hugging my mom. Yeah, but it's not like that, right? But how do you tell a child? Imagine sitting there telling your child, yo, I'm hugging your mom, but I really don't like her. Like, I don't really want to be with her. I'm just hugging and hugger, right? Because he's going to equate the loving or your actions to himself. So I hug Cameron because I love him. So daddy loves me, he hugs me. Oh, daddy hugs mommy, he loves mommy, which is not so. So you gotta set those clear-cut boundaries where there's no confusion about where both parties stand. So that's the point.
I gotta give you a lot of credit, because I feel like you figured out a blueprint that really works. Because with Cam, he never saw you and his mom affectionate. So he never equated you and mom, oh, they love each other, they're in love, the way that me and daddy is. Then you showed him your wife and how me and her, I'm affectionate with her. I show her love. I'm giving her that. So now he sees, oh, that is love. You've done a great job of taking a situation that could be tragic and making it something beautiful.
Appreciate
and
it.
I feel like what you're doing is going to give Cam something that a lot of other kids won't have. He'll be able to speak to people from two different perspectives, and he'll be able to show people how, even though they're in their situation, of how he can relate and how he takes the good of how it's supposed to be. And I have to commend you, because that's beautiful, man.
Appreciate that.
Beautiful.
Appreciate that. But it goes back to, what did I ask God for? Right?
Wisdom.
I asked him for wisdom because I knew that was the only way. And I'm gonna just throw one more nugget out there about boundaries, right? Please keep in mind, when you set your boundaries, it's not through ill intent, right? It's not because you're mad at the person. It's strictly driven by the fact that you do not want to confuse your child. So let's just say the child has a sporting event. Everybody go. You can give a generic hi. You could, you know what I mean? Keep it pushing, whatever the case is. But everybody attend, everybody support him, everybody show love for him specifically.
Mm-hmm.
That's within boundaries.
Yeah.
What would be out of boundaries would be, hey, let's take them out to dinner together.
Mm.
That's out of boundaries. See, people will go, nah,
Yeah.
but
That's intimate.
it's intimate. Exactly. So you have to
Mm.
be able to decipher what will confuse your child, which is intimacy, compared to what will set a standard in his mind of where each party lies. And that's not only important for your child, that's important for the person that you're going to be with next.
Yeah.
Extremely important, because you don't even want to confuse, the potential husband or wife that you're going to get with actions that you thought were beneficial
Yeah.
to the child or natural, because that person coming in is coming from the outside in. And then what'll happen
Yeah.
is it'll cause conflict between you two, and you'll go, I'm just trying to be there for my child. But what you're representing is a false sense of family for the child, and you're making the other party uncomfortable with it, because we're going to be a family now. So
Yeah.
she doesn't apply, or he doesn't apply to this circumstance. Only the child applies. You have to separate it, right? So they're connected, but they're also separated. Even in your marriage, right? For example, you and your child have your own relationship. Kayla has her own relationship.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
connected, but you're still independent at the same
We're
time.
still co-parenting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow. So basically what you're saying is if you're not together, you shouldn't play house just for the child.
no, 100% not. Not
Yeah.
even. It's not even an option. It's a recipe for disaster. It's almost as detrimental to be in a home and not be married and have a child and play boyfriend and girlfriend. It's all
Yeah.
the same. It doesn't. The principle of it doesn't change. The problem is that people feel like we're boyfriend and girlfriend. We have a child. We live together. Marriage is next. Yes, that is it's a very high likely of that happening, right? But just keep this in mind. Would you want your child to do that? Right? Would you recommend your child to go live with somebody that's not married, have a child with them, play house for a little while, and then get married? If you say yes, that would be 100% a lie, or you're just not. I mean, be honest. Or you're not acting on wisdom, because every day that you wake up, right? And this is not to say that anybody's going to leave, but when you're not married, you're not bound by covenant, which means that ultimately the person that you're laying with is not fully committed to you.
No. Yeah, I agree.
Right. And, people could say whatever they want as far as, okay, but I'm going to commit, or I'm going to this, right? I'm gonna and I'm trying means that I'm not.
Yeah.
So
You have to do it.
A lot of people, yeah, exactly. A lot of people take that into, it might take offense to it, but it's just the truth. And I'm a big component of nuclear family. And I mean, I'm a very big advocate for nuclear families, and I want people
100%.
right? But when you're in a toxic situation and not acknowledging it as a toxic situation, that is a sign of immaturity. What do I mean? If you're living with somebody that you're not married to and you have a child and you're playing house, you're being oblivious to the fact that this person is not willing to fully commit to you. And what that's going to do is it's going to teach the child how not to commit. That's what that's teaching. That's what you're teaching. And you could say, no, we're a loving family, or what is it? Yes, that's great. But guess what? That's just mommy's boyfriend. And that's just daddy's girlfriend. That's it.
That's true.
So what you're teaching is you're teaching toxic behavior, which is a component to a weak mentality for the child, because now he's really not going to understand commitment till its fullest capacity. But,
Wow. No, that's real. That's a fact. That's a fact. Yeah, we live in a culture where that's promoted. Like my little cousin, she was staying with me for the week. And she was telling me how some of her friends were joking about saving it for marriage. And she said she was looking at them like, what? Like basically they're saying, like, why would you save it for marriage? Like, that's crazy. Like, who does that? Like, I would never do that. And mind you, she's going to 11th grade, and she's just like, it's crazy that people that I'm in my age group, they don't have the same mindset that I have. Like, she has the mindset, like, she wants to save it for marriage.
Good for her.
And it's become a norm that we don't save it for marriage. That's become the norm. And it's like, that's not okay.
What the problem with it is, though, right? The best way to put it is this: there's a lack of male influence that promotes this type of behavior, right? So so much to the point that women adopted the same philosophy. Oh, I got to test out this, figure out if I want it or not. Or everything is a test, right?
Yeah.
The problem with testing things is that you can fail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And more than that, I would much rather you be in full commitment before giving yourself to someone, because what happens is you guys can grow together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So remember, sex is simply just an appetite. It's a beautiful thing, but it's a very strong appetite. So once you have that, it's almost like eating the forbidden fruit from the tree. Once you gain that knowledge of what the appetite feels like, now you want to feed it. So when we say you should wait for marriage, it's not because we're not saying you shouldn't understand what you want, but there are many other ways to understand what you have in the relationship without entering the violation of that that moral stance, right? You can you got your hands, and I'm not saying any sexual activities. I'm saying without the sexual activity. I don't want to throw any situations.
Yeah. Don't make it tempted. People get tempted.
Just enough where you can figure out, oh, this is good. This is not. Right? Your hands is a very powerful thing, but we're not going to get into that. That's a whole
but even though this talking about the marriage thing might sound out of context, but that is essentially the core of when that doesn't work, where you get into these co-parenting situations. True. Now, just imagine if you would have waited and done the right things, you wouldn't have to worry about these co-parenting situations.
You wouldn't even be in the predicament that you're in. 100%.
Exactly.
And like I said, it's definitely one of those things where I get it, right? And I really do. It's not. We're not speaking from a perspective of being hypocrites, because we're in that light. What we're trying to do is prevent you. We're trying to prevent you from these avenues that we had to cross, right?
Give you the healthiest relationship possible.
100%. So next, let's talk about actions.
Okay.
Within co-parenting. All right. So what I'll address directly is, how do you act when you're around the party and when you're not around the party? So, for example, when it comes to Cam, I don't ever bring his mom up. I don't say anything bad. I don't say anything good. I just don't say anything.
Yeah.
Why? Because at the end of the day, I'm focused on the actions that I'm showing him within our family, meaning my wife, Christian, and I'm more focused on that than basically having that negative energy towards the other person.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't think that you're gonna do things that will, even when we're face to face. I don't really
play the game.
Huh?
Like play that game.
Yeah, I'm just not into that. I'm not. I'll put it like this. I'll speak if I'm spoken to. I'm not rude. I'm very
play super dad. Like, hey, Ken, give me a hug.
Yeah, I don't got it.
Hey, your mom's here. All right, now. Yeah. I love you, son.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like, no, you'll be surprised. People do this.
Oh my god.
It's like, dude, or female. It's
not
that deep, but it's really, and this is what this stems from, and what I realized, and it's okay. I'm not trying to knock on it. And please, I'm speaking on my situation, but not directly about the person. So I don't want nothing to get back to nobody, and then I gotta hear it. All I'm saying is that type of energy and those type of actions are stemmed from insecurity. All it is. You're just insecure, so you're doing things to overcompensate your insecurity about the situation.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's what it is. But this one, I'll say this one we're about to speak on, you'll be good with this, but language. How do you speak when you're around the child? What type of language do you adopt? What type of philosophies do you have? Do you say, or do you live by around the child? So I got to ask you this, right? When you were trying to separate yourself from your child's upbringing, how important was to adjust your language?
Oh, man. That was top 5, because it's like, the language growing up is, I'm not saying it blatantly, but the language is, I'm your parent, I'm over you, what says go, what you have to say doesn't matter, you're in my house, this is my rules, you don't have no say. You don't have any rules. Any opinion you have, you keep to yourself, or you will get smacked.
Or you will get smacked.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that was
no.
pretty much the language. So I
Mhm.
had to make sure that that wasn't the language that I was portraying in our household. That yes, you can speak to me. You have something to say. You come, you bring it to me.
Mhm.
I may not like what you're saying, but I'm gonna give you an opportunity to express yourself.
100%.
That I didn't have that. So I had to make sure this atmosphere is not a dictatorship atmosphere.
100%.
Is it very expressful? You can express yourself. You can tell me how you feel. We're gonna work out the kinks. We're gonna figure out what the issue is, and we're gonna move forward.
100%. So
You know what I mean?
within co-parent, what the struggle is, it's two different languages. It's like somebody
Mm.
speaking Spanish and somebody speaking French, right?
Wow.
Two different languages, two different households, two different parents, two different opinions, two different everything. So what happens is, this is why, and I'm gonna give you guys a little cheat code,
Mm-hmm.
right? As a co-parent, do not focus on buying things. Do not focus on trying to, impress them with materialistic things. And I'm telling you this specifically because, and we're gonna get it's gonna be our last topic after this part, but prior to me getting custody, joint custody of Cam, prior
Mm-hmm.
to that, I had to really focus on his mental state, right? So everything that I did was a reflection of what I wanted his mental state to be like. So, for example, I had an apartment, right? I lived on my own. I didn't have a whole bunch of different or many different women
Yeah.
entering into our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Why? Not only was I past that stage mentally, but I was conscious of him seeing different women recycling through, and how would that affect his mental state, right? So it was very far, honestly, not even on one hand, I can count how many people actually came into my apartment while Cam was
Yeah.
there. And even more importantly, while Cam wasn't there.
Yeah. That's true.
Right?
That's
So
true.
the actions that you practice cannot only be in front of his face, because if you do it behind his back, you're a hypocrite. It's a question of integrity. Right? So let's say cursing.
Yeah.
I said, I got to knock this habit. I knocked it in front of him, but could I knock it behind his back? Did that, right? So what happens is, everything that you do in silence, it comes to fruition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's inevitable, because you have a dual mind frame. You never know which mind is going to come. Right? So 1 minute you could be this righteous man who's loyal and loving. The next minute you could be this sinful monster who's just running through women, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know which appetite is going to come. So you have to practice the habits that will become the patterns that will make you an effective parent, regardless of your child being around or them not being around.
Wow. Wow. And it's crazy because you have to deal with language coming from within his realm, but outside of your realm.
100% true.
And with me and my wife, so when we talked about when Eli said shut up, we can look at each other and say like, yo, where did he get that from? Because we don't speak like that. So it's different when you have a child and you're co-parenting and he says something, you be like, who you around? Like, so like, I don't even know your atmosphere now. So I can't even go to that source and say like, yo, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you.
I can't. That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
but this is why it's, and I hate to say it like this, but excuse me. Regardless, how do I say this the right way without? I'm not worried about Cameron's atmosphere.
Yeah.
In this aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's an invisible kingdom that lives within him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That overrides any cultural influences that could possibly try to tear him down or change his mentality. What I do is I promote kingdom culture in his mind. So this way, there's nothing that could happen outside of my control that I have to worry about. There are no actions that anyone could speak or do to him that he wouldn't say to me, or he wouldn't even correct himself, right? And because of that, I don't take credit for it, because obviously, it wasn't me that provided the wisdom. It might have been my actions in the sense of taking accountability for the things that I'm doing, but his mentality is driven from his source. I don't disconnect him from his source. I unite his source and I aid him that way. So he might look at me and say the words that I say to him are loving and caring, but realistically, I'm promoting the source that's already established in him. So the things that I'm saying are just affirmation to his mind that is already instilled within him, even at a tender age.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's not, I don't have to override his external presence in the sense of where he's going to be. I'm supremely confident
because of what you're putting inside of him.
I'm extremely, to the point I don't worry. Really
that's
don't.
good.
I might worry about little things, things that he physically can't control in the sense of where he's going, right? But that's more of me being annoyed, right? But as far as his mental state, I'm in tune. I'm just in tune to him. It's
That's
not
good. That's good.
We're good. We're in tune, 100%. So the insecurities that come from other parents who co-parent, it's because you're not in tune. It's driven. It causes an insecurity within yourself, and you don't feel like you're the parent you need to be. But I'm constantly evolving and constantly learning with him. I always say, Cam raised me, but I raised him. We raised each other. So because of that, we're still growing. So I'm always making sure in our relationship we're equally yoked, because I can't stress myself out about what they were doing over there or what they're teaching them over there. Right? All I'll do is I'll teach him principles that are so engraved within his DNA that if he brings a situation to me, I don't even address the situation. I address the principle that was violated within the situation and see if he understands why it was wrong. So it allows me to not point fingers at the other party. So he can never go back and say, oh, daddy said this about, right? I address, for example, let's say he doesn't tell me the whole truth. And he stems it from the other party telling him, hey, I wasn't supposed to say nothing. Right? I will go. I won't even address the fact that he just told me somebody said, yo, don't say this to your dad. I will go, we have a good relationship, right? Of course we have a good relationship, daddy. We can talk about anything, right? Of course we can talk about anything. So do you think it's right that you feel like somebody would tell you not to say something to daddy, regardless of who it is? He'll go, no, you're right. I'll go, okay, well, give me a hug. And as long as I know he knows that, I don't have to worry about what's being said. But that's just an example of what I'm speaking about.
That's good. I like that.
Because it allows, like I said, I don't want to point fingers. Don't get it twisted. Does it annoy me? Yeah. But do I care enough to say anything to the other party? No. Am I going to say something? No, I don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. It means nothing to me. But
wow. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
That's that, But
doing your thing, bro. I feel like you've really, people in your situation can learn so much from you.
Yeah, and listen, and I say this very openly. I'm not one-sided with this. I'm harsher on men than I am on the woman. So for men to come to me ever to talk about this, just understand the first question I'm going to ask is, where did you violate to get to this point? That's the first thing I'm going to ask. And they're going to go, well, what if the woman violated? That's great. But women usually lead up to that point. So what happened, what transpired before to get to this point? And once that's where the foundation starts, and from the accountability aspect, that's where you could build. But,
Wow.
You know, it's
That's
cool.
good.
Co-parent. But I want to leave with this, though. The court system.
Ha.
For all my brothers who scared to go to court for their
Uh-huh.
children. Let me tell you what this means to someone like me.
Uh-huh.
Okay, help me say this nicely. The excuse of she won't let me see my child. That is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
100%.
You're going to say the courts are against men, the courts are this, the courts are that. I'm not even going to negate that part of it.
Uh-huh.
Really not. Let me see, what was it? 2 years ago, I filed for full custody of Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Full custody.
Yeah, I remember.
Full custody. Let me say this right. Full custody.
I remember that.
Okay? Why did James go for full custody knowing that a court system probably would never give him full custody? Because, let me just say this nicely, his mom is not a bad parent. She's actually she's a very good parent. And she takes very good care of him. And he loves her dearly. So let me just caution people on that. I'm not saying that I did it because she's a bad parent. I did it for 2 reasons. One, I needed to make sure I could secure time with my child to move forward with my life. I didn't want to leave it up to a parent to decide when I'm going to see or speak to my child. Right? So law is everything. And that's the kingdom, and that's even here in the everyday life. Law is everything. 2, people usually say, you're only going to get every other weekend, which they offered me. I will say they offered me every other weekend and one dinner night. I said, well, I'm going to be honest. I'm never taking that.
Yeah.
Right? When people shy away because they feel like they're going to lose, if that's what they want to call it, what you're doing is you're showing your child that they're not worth going through the process for.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When push came to shove, I knew, regardless of the outcome, I had proof to my son that daddy always wanted to be here for him. And I would do whatever it took.
Did everything in your power
To make sure I was able to be here for you, regardless of the outcome of me and your mom or the situation. Those 2 components, it should be enough to empower any man who feels like they don't see their child or they can't see their child, they can't get along with the mom, whatever the case may be. That should be enough for you to go to court.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Part 3. A lot of people speak on child support. Let me just explain this in the nice terms. I was on child support. His mother took me off child support. It wasn't how the best way to say it. It wasn't because we had the best relationship. Right? Our settlement with the court allowed us to do a split where I think it's like, I want to say maybe like 40, I get like 45%, she might get 55, but it really just, it really stems from the fact that he goes to school where she lives. But I get adequate time. I'm more than a part-time dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Much more. The problem is men, and this is me talking to you guys directly, you shy away from the court because you don't want her to take you for child support. Because the minute you enter into a custody battle, child support is right after. But just keep in mind this, they can go for child support anytime they want.
Yeah, that's true.
I was on child support. She went for child support. I went for time. Right? Because the money did not equate to the time. I did not care about the money as much as I cared about spending time.
Wow.
They're not on the same playing field. Wow. Stop putting the two. If you're going to put a price on providing for your child, then you need to evaluate yourself as a parent.
Ooh.
You understand?
I never even looked at it like that. That's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, you're looking at it as, I'm not going to say nothing.
Is it worth me doing all that for my kid?
I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not going to do nothing. As long as she don't put me on child support, I'll see him or see her when I can. And it'll be what it's going to be. As long as she doesn't get 17% of my check.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Here's a little nugget. Time and money equate in the court system. I'm not going to say that you'll be 100% off child support if that's what you want to say.
Yeah.
But remember, they equate. So it gives you leverage, right? But you don't want time for leverage. You want time so that way you can spend that with your child. There is no amount of money that they could have took from my check that would have altered my vision or my goal of assuring that I would have the time I want with my son.
Wow.
Independent of asking his mom. I don't have to ask for time.
Wow.
I don't have to go, can I spend this time with my son?
Wow.
It is court documented. It's by law. I have rights.
Yeah. So there's no argument. There's no fighting. It's simple. Like
It's
my
simple.
time. Cool.
Simple. So for those who struggle in that process, I have no problem talking you through it. But the reason why I felt like I was successful when I went through the corporate, and I'm not even the only one that did it. It was another dude, my man. He got full custody of his daughter. Full custody. Shouts out to him. He's a lawyer, and he really did his thing. I'm not gonna throw his name out there, but maybe one day I'll have him. Maybe one day we'll bring him on. He's a very, very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
And just to put you guys on to perspective for co-parenting, if you can't reason with each other, the court will fix it.
Oh yeah,
right?
They'll do it for you.
They'll do it for you, and even more than that, what that did for me was that it forced me to get my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
It forced me to be organized. It forced my hand, which is what I needed, right?
Yeah.
Because you can get complacent in, yo, can I see him or I can't see him? Or I get him every week and I get him every. You can get complacent in that. But when you go to court, you actually have to show how you're available to your child. And that, for me, was very powerful. The fact that I could adjust my schedule, I can propose time and provide the time.
Wow.
Right? And to know, like, I was willing to sacrifice money for time, it was okay for me. Because there's nothing more valuable than time spent with your child.
Well, yeah, I believe that. 100%.
There's nothing.
100%.
So just consider this. When you say, I don't want to be on child support, listen to what that says. I don't want to support my child. Right now, even in my situation, I'm not court bound by child support, but I'm still supporting my child.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be biased. On the other side of it, listen, if you guys are splitting time, then there's no need for you to pay for both parties. What do I mean?
That's true.
I shouldn't have to pay for my child while he's with me, and then when he goes with you, I have to pay again.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm not being biased about it. I'm just keeping it a buck. Like, women have to keep that in mind, because you can get 17% to you blue in the face. You can do everything you want. I'm not knocking you. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
There are some men who refuse to help aid in that child. And for that, yes, I do agree. Do what you got to do.
Yeah, but if you're just taking that money because you want extra money to go get whatever you want.
You're doing it out of bitter intent.
Yeah.
You're in a bad situation. So me understanding, I will say this, honestly. His mother took me off child support, and she said it openly, right? When we went to because it's a hearing for it. We went to the hearing, and shouts out to her because she just kept it a buck. She said, he's going to be with his father a lot more. He's in school. We're going to work out our financial situation, independent of the court. So shouts out to her for being a genuine person in that aspect and putting Cam first. Now, I'll just give you guys a little piece of how we do it is, Cam needs something. Yo, it costs $200. Here's $100. You got $100. Everything is split down the middle, which it should be. But
that's how it should be.
But as the man, let me say this. It's my responsibility to take care of my children, right? So she might bring to me a proposition that she wants him to do. I'm going to give half.
Yeah.
But if I have a proposition for him, I'm going to pay for it. Understand what that means, right?
Ooh.
Because it's my responsibility to take care of my son.
Yeah. You're not going to go and ask her.
I don't bring it up. There's no need to. It's my responsibility to take care of my child.
Wow.
I might not be the foundation of their home, but I'm his foundation.
Yeah.
So I have to provide. I get it. You'll probably say it's biased or, you know, whatever.
I respect that.
But that's how it's supposed to be. And this is not a knock, because women got money. There's some women that make bank. But you as the man being,
I respect that.
You understand? You saying you're the man, and being the source and the provider for your child, you should not be asking the mom to help you, right? And truth of the matter is, it's okay, and you can say it's biased. I don't really care, but I have no problem when his mom brings to me, "Hey, he's gonna do this. How much is it? Split it down the middle." But
I respect it.
That was just another part of co-parenting. That's the the sum up of co-parenting. Don't be afraid to go to that court, man. I'm telling you, you'll be surprised.
You gotta take that step, man. Some people are just not willing, man. I ain't trying to go through all that. You're not trying to go through all what for your kid?
There's no mountains, no valleys.
There's no desert. Whatever I gotta go through. Nah, we're gonna make it happen.
And I also want to give a shout out to my wife, who really, I'm not gonna front. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to do it. She was there. She was there for me every step of the way. Every single step. And shouts out to my friends who helped, because I will tell you, it's a very strenuous process. Very stressful.
It's not easy.
It's very stressful. And if you looking to take that step, you better know how to speak, because you're going to be under oath. And you better be organized in your thoughts. Do not listen to any court-appointed attorneys. Do not just settle. Let the judge settle. Let it go the distance. I let it go the distance. And I end up getting, she proposed something that was more than fair. And it allowed me to move forward with my life, close that door. And honestly, there's no need to argue about nothing.
Man.
Not arguing about nothing. You heard?
Beautiful. Man, you just gave so much insight into co-parenting. Man, if y'all going through those situations, take notes, watch over and over. And honestly, this is the man you want. If you have any questions, this is the man you want to talk to about this stuff. Like, I've never heard anybody break it down so beautifully and in a way that you can really understand and break it down like, oh, okay, those are the steps. That's the blueprint. Okay, I got it.
And always do it with a genuine heart. And please keep in mind, heart means your mind. So always do it with a clear mind. And I promise you, it'll work out the way it needs to work out. And keep in mind, you'll have paperwork to support what you're saying. So, and hopefully
beautiful.
We don't promote it, but you got to deal with it. It's the reality of it.
It's the reality. We had to do it.
Next week, though.
Next week, for now, I'm about to just stop saying what we're doing next week.
Nah. We got to.
We just gonna come. Y'all gonna come on, and we gonna tell y'all what the title is, what the subject is, and y'all we ain't gonna, cause we don't know what we gonna do. Something might just change. We gonna be like, yo, we gotta talk about this. So next week, just pull up. We gonna have something for y'all. Y'all gonna get this work, and we just gonna keep doing this.
Nah, it was dope, man. Listen, honestly, and this is really from my heart. Like, I really want women and men to understand that regardless of what happened between you and the parties, that child does not deserve anything less than a respectful relationship from you and the other party. And that includes the husband or the wife, everybody across the board. And men, it's up to you to set that foundation of how things are going to roll, right? Because push comes to shove. I'm not saying all men, but a lot of times it's, it's 100% of the time. It's up to us to be the living example.
And within co-parenting, it's going to be ups and downs.
Woo!
But no matter what, make sure you keep God before anything.
Word. Strive for perfection. Even if you fall short, you're still going to be excellent, which is amazing, outstanding thought process.
We
will holler at y'all next week.
Later. We out.